Namaskar, myself Dr. Satyadev Misra wish you a very happy Independence Day. Friends, nation is celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav on the occasion of 75 years of India's independence. Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav is a celebration of progressive India and the glorious history of its people, culture and achievements. 15th August is very auspicious day in Indian history. India got freedom from British rule on 15 August 1947 due to the vision and sacrifice of our freedom fighters. Sri Aurobindo, the poet of patriotism, the prophet of nationalism and the lover of humanity, was one of them. He was born on the 15th August 1872 in Calcutta an hour before sunrise. When Sri Aurobindo was 4 years old, at that time he was sent to the Loreto Convent School at Darjeeling to acquire well education and knowledge. And at the age of 7, Sri Aurobindo was taken to England where he attended St. Paul's School, London, and then went on a senior classical scholarship to King's College, Cambridge. Here he stood in the first class in the classical tripos and also passed the final examination for the Indian Civil Service. Not wishing to service in the ICS, he disqualified himself by not attending the riding test. He obtained employment in the service of the Maharaja of Baroda and returned to India in 1893. During his service in Baroda state, he made a deep study of India's cultural heritage and political condition. In 1906, Sri Aurobindo resigned his position and went to Bengal and took up openly the leadership of the revolutionary movement for India's emancipation from British rule. Sri Aurobindo actively involved in Indian politics from 1902 to 1910. During the first half of this period, he joined in the Swadeshi movement and worked with other co-workers in the beginnings of the faction. He was one of the well-known freedom fighters and played an important role in independence revolutionary movement. Aurobindo dreamed of liberating his motherland from British rule. He began writing editorials for Vande Mataram and English Daily, started by Bipin Chandra Pal. He contributed articles for other journals like Jugantar, Indu Prakash and Karma Yogi. Sri Aurobindo wrote, "Freedom is the birthright of every citizen. No nation has the right to infringe on the freedom of other nations." Sri Aurobindo was the first to put forth in the pages of his journal Vande Mataram the ideal of complete political independence for India. He had the courage to declare openly for complete and absolute independence. He wrote, "There are some who fear to use the word freedom, but I have always used the word because it has been the mantra of my life to aspire towards the freedom of my nation. It was because because of his boldness of speech and writing that he was made the target of British politics. No wonder Viceroy Lord Minto described Aurobindo as the most dangerous man in India. The outburst of his piercing words and activities against the then prevailing British rule was the sole cause for which he was accused and arrested on May 4, 1908, and he was acquitted on May 6, 1909 for lack of evidence. In 1910, he withdrew himself from active politics and went to Pondicherry in order to devote himself entirely to the spiritual discipline of yoga. After gathering up in himself the essential element of past spiritual experience, he moved on his search of a more complete realization, one which would unite the two poles of spirit and matter. His aim of his life should be to attain spiritual freedom. Sri Aurobindo, freedom was not a mere political goal but a spiritual imperative, without which mankind would be deprived of the divine light. Sri Aurobindo not only wanted to emancipation of India but the freedom and emancipation of the colonies as a whole. What he preached throughout the world were freedom of man, unity of mankind, and the divinity of man. Sri Aurobindo mentioned the aim for which he was working. Those were achievement of, first, India's freedom and her unity. Second, the liberation of Asian colonies. Third, the rise of a new, a greater, brighter and nobler role for mankind. Fourth, the gift by India of her spiritual knowledge and her means for the spiritualization of life to the whole race. And fifth, a new step in the evolution to solve the many problems of existence. According to Sri Aurobindo, absolute freedom is the realization of divine life. It is possible to realize the divine truth only through the spiritual evolutionary process. He pointed out that spirituality is essential to realize the self, to be relieved in the diversity of nature, and to transform ourselves into the very essence of nature. We can find true salvation only if we can combine material life proper with the spirituality propounded by Sri Aurobindo. It is essential to follow without any oscillation the spiritual education and philosophy of the Sri Aurobindo is the present materialistic period to preserve true human existence and human nature. Spiritual development and philosophical thought of Sri Aurobindo brings the sense of completeness in physical, material, and mental aspects of human life. Sri Aurobindo aims at the evolution of individual, nation, and humanity through spirituality. The spiritual evolution thus affects a total transformation of all the lower principles towards higher form of existence. With this new evolution, the whole cosmos attains salvation or absolute freedom. Sri Aurobindo stressed that spiritualistic approach to understanding internationalism can help in awakening the conscience of the enlightened citizens of the different nationalities, and this would help them to become true internationalists. Aurobindo believed that spirituality can help in realizing the inherent oneness of the humanity and the entire existence on this earth. To save the Mother Earth and humanity and to make India as Vishwaguru, we must follow the philosophy and teachings of Sri Aurobindo. Jai Hind, Vande Mataram.